game this week against Carolina that he wouldn't be playing, because he mentioned a whole lot if the coaches need me in the classroom to kind of help guys out and all kind of other stuff, basically giving you coach speak. But he let you know he wasn't playing. That speaks volumes to me.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. I mean, and we've given the team a lot of credit in terms of free agency this year. I think guys like Craig Robertson, Nick Fairley, Sterling Moore, whether or not he stays next year, has been a solid pickup this year. Even the case can be made for Webb, and even Jari Evans coming back as technically a free agent. But what they really missed when it came to James Laurinaitis, I mean really missed, it's been a bad miss. And no offense to him, of course, but really, can we expect this team to play any better when the quote-unquote captain of the defensive field is not just changing, but you literally took last year's captain of that same unit, and he's now riding the pine. I do understand that he does not fit the system that you're trying to run. I get that. What I still don't understand is the fact that you replace him by an older version of himself, where the only difference between the two is the color of their skin. That's it. They're the same type of prototypical middle linebacker. And then now you're upset with him for failing, and you move Craig Robinson into the middle linebacker spot, and now he is getting abused as a middle linebacker. That's not his position. So now we basically have taken two starter-level linebackers, if we're talking Laurinaitis and Anthony, are now riding the pine, and you're now filling in positions with UDFAs and free agents at your Will spot and Sam spot, and now you've got Roman Harper playing more of a third safety because we're lacking linebackers, when really you should have known from the beginning this ship isn't going to work. I mean, this ship is not going to float. I mean, it's going to sink immediately. And we're 6 weeks in. We lost 3 to start the season. Yes, we won 2 in a row. We've also given up more than 30 points 4 times this year. 4 times. The only exception was against the New York Giants, where that defense, for whatever reason, in week 2 looked like the Dome Patrol all over again. But every other game, we've given up more than 30 points 4 times. And we've given up a 40-burger to the Atlanta Falcons, of all people. We almost gave up a 40-burger to the Carolina Panthers. And that goes back to the free agency. There's been one faulty free agent move, and it is hurting us so badly.
And it's pretty consistent when it comes to it. It's not like the Saints or they might sign 3 or 4 free agents and they'll just miss out on one. No, they're consistently missing on their free agent pickups, and it almost seems like you tend to give them a little bit of a pass sometimes, because you kind of forget that when Mickey Loomis does sign a guy like a B.W. Webb or a Sterling Moore, and he comes in and he plays 5 or 6 plays at a healthy level, but I mean it doesn't add up. There's something seriously wrong with this picture, and it's simply the idea that the Saints. I don't know if it's a scouting thing. I don't know if it's a personnel thing, but for some strange reason, the Saints aren't just getting it done when it comes to free agents, man. And I mean, it would be different if you were hitting on your draft picks. Saints aren't doing either right now, and that's a recipe for disaster extremely quickly. If you look at the Green Bay Packers, that would be a great model to look after, because they were guys that, tried to hit a lot on draft picks and draft picks only, and they were doing their fair share, but they were missing out on free agents, and now we're starting to bite them in the butt because Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a lot of guys to help him out right now.
Well, let me throw this out there. This year, I've got to give the Saints at least a B when it comes to free agency. Maybe it was Jeff Ireland coming in, even though he's not really the free agent type guy in that general manager locker room, if you will. But this year, I've got to give him props on that. If all you missed was James Laurinaitis, that's fine. Because then the argument comes up that our past failures are catching up to us. But, man, what a critical miss to miss the captain of a defense. That's a big miss to have. I mean, and it's not like Laurinaitis was the only one out there. Now, he might have been the only one we could afford out there. But I would have rather just stuck with Anthony if we were going to do that type of player. Now, if we would have brought in somebody else, more of a read zone type of middle linebacker, not a attack the A and B gap linebacker, and see what happens, I can more live with that type of a failure. Because if that person would have come in and simply not worked out, fine. But when you bring in something, we've harped on this for 4 or 5 weeks now, when you bring in somebody who literally is the exact same mold of player and you expect something different from both of them and they both fail you, that's a problem with not just scouting. To me, that's football common sense. And I don't understand this mantra where some coaches feel that they can just take a player, the position that they've known their entire life, the way they've known it their entire life, and then just expect them to flip in 1 year. I'm sure there are some that can do that. There are certainly Hall of Fame level talent people. There are extremely high sports IQ people who can manage that switch, but most people can't. I mean, that's like Mark Ingram is never going to be the Reggie Bush type of explosive, one-hit home run type of a player. He's not. He is going to be that consistent one-cut running back. And yeah, he's improved on his receiving game, but would we really ever say that he had that explosiveness of Reggie Bush? That's just not his type of play style, so we wouldn't ask him to play that. And it goes back to the same thing we've said before. You would not ask Kenny Vaccaro, because they have asked of this before, for him to play a traditional strong safety role when his success has always come with him getting close to the line, covering tight ends and man-to-man, and even rushing, the rushing attack and the passer at times. Him playing a traditional deep, strong safety, he's failed at it. And when they switched him back, he's back to having a Pro Bowl type year. You've got to get players that fit your system and stop trying to find players who are good on paper. And Laurinaitis, I know what you're saying about the Rams letting him go. That has some merit, but I do still think he has some gas in the tank. And had he been put on a team that needed that A and B gap type linebacker, let's say that he had gone to, let's just say he went to Oakland, I think that fit works there better than it does in New Orleans.
So I agree with what you're saying here, but what I want to take a look at when you bring up this, I don't know if the Saints have a system. And maybe that's the biggest issue of it all. Maybe it's something that, as you stated earlier, offensively, you know what you're getting when it comes to the New Orleans Saints. You got Drew Brees, and you can pretty much plug anybody else in that system, and it's going to run just as smoothly. You get rid of Marcus Colston, fine. Insert Michael Thomas. Everybody loves, everybody, is in love because it's run just as smoothly. You get rid of a Lance Moore. Here comes Willie Snead. You get rid of a deep threat like a Robert Meacham, Devery Henderson, and there you go with Brandon Cooks. The system is in place. It doesn't matter who you put in that system, it works. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Graham, gone, insert Kobe Fleener, and he's starting to show his merit just a little bit now. But when it comes to defense, I don't know if the Saints have a system. I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe the Saints can't pick up personnel to fit the system because they don't know what is the system. And hopefully after this season, Dennis Allen will be able to implement whatever it is he believes his system is. But right now, I don't know if the Saints have one. I'll use an analogy that I love to use when it comes to basketball. There are two types of teams. There's the running gun type of team, and then there's the kind of the methodical, slow it down, let's play fundamental basketball. Well, the best coach in basketball, Greg Popovich, has been able to adjust his style to fit whoever he has. Mm-hmm. When Greg Popovich had the Twin Towers, if you will, the David Robinson and Tim Duncan, they played slow, methodical basketball. When he got the Tony Parker and the Manu Ginobili, he pushed the pace a little bit, but everything went through Tim Duncan. Now he has Kawhi Leonard and some other young guys, and what's he doing? He's running and gunning. Well, that's what Dennis Allen needs to do on defense pretty much. Find your guys, find your system, and then whatever that is, go with it. And we'll see, because I don't think he can make an adjustment to make it. You can't make Stephon Anthony all of a sudden learn how to cover. That's not who he is. That's not who he's ever going to be. He can't. And he proved that against the Carolina Panthers when, he was responsible for the touchdown in which Cam Newton looks like he just threw a jump shot up there and it goes for a touchdown because Stephon Anthony over pursued the play. He saw a run look. He went for it. He didn't get his zone deep enough, and the ball goes right over his head and for a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually one of the ones I was referring to earlier. I just didn't come out and say it, but I think I get what you're saying. Obviously, they have a system. It just might not be one that's working, and part of that is because have changed it so much. Because the system that you mentioned that the offense has is because that's been in place for a decade. a literal decade now. But yet on defense, we've gone through a different defensive coordinator. We've had 3 in the past 5 years. Is that what it is? There's no time for any system to go through anything. And before that, when you had Greg Williams, call it what you want, say there was supposed bounties, all that, at least it was stable. And it still took a couple years for that defense to really kick it off. They didn't start off when Greg Williams first came in and were just this dominant defense. And they never became super dominant in terms of yards, but they clicked. They were cohesive. They worked together. They were a unit. You don't really have that now. And a lot of that is time. I mean, the best defenses in the NFL, you name them, most of those units have been together for a while. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings right now, I drafted them high in fantasy, even though they did not have a colossal amount of points the past couple of years because they were a young defense that's had a couple years to mature together. And what are you seeing now? By far the best defense in terms of takeaways, points, sacks in the NFL because they are a young team that have had time to mature together. Give us that same time next year, Saints could be not that good, but a good team. But until then, and it's like you're saying, until there's an actual time for this team to come together, it doesn't matter who you throw in there because Saints fans are going to expect Delvin Breaux to look phenomenal when he comes back. But I promise you, Delvin Breaux is going to be rusty. He's going to need time to get back into this team and get back into playing. And he's going to need time to know what it's like to play opposite of Sterling Moore and B.W. Webb and things like that because you see that problem exhibiting on offense. How many times has Coby Fleener been on the same exact route as another player and been 3 feet from him? It worked to our advantage. Better worded this way. It didn't work to our disadvantage Sunday when Coby Fleener caught that touchdown pass when he was 4 feet away from Willie Snead. But that's not, you don't design routes for people to be on top of each other. That is a problem with you not working enough with your team to learn where you need to be and where they need to be. And that just takes time. So that defense simply needs time to grow together before we can expect anything from them besides giving up 30 points a game, especially when you add on the fact that we're missing 7-8 starters.
And that's the reason for my optimism. I've seen the, preseason prognostications and, I've seen some people who have suggested that the Saints would only win 6 games. I wasn't one of those people simply in the idea that I believe that the Saints do have talent, young talent, inexperienced guys, yes, but they do have talent. And I'd like to add the fact that Sean Payton has never not won at least 7 games. So I couldn't see the Saints going just 6-10. And I know 6-10 and 7-9 isn't that far apart, but I don't see the Saints losing that many games. What I do believe is that this team is much like you said about the Minnesota Vikings. Will they be as good? Probably not. But young and up and coming, absolutely. I think they need another year of seasoning, and that would be amongst Drew Brees' last years with the Saints. I think next year will probably be maybe his, close to his last year. I think next year, maybe the year after, but by next year, I think this defense will be ready, especially if Dennis Allen is retained, which I don't see him going anywhere. I think Dennis Allen is about as safe as Joe Vitt, and yeah. That's saying a lot when you say that because Joe Vitt's going nowhere. So I think Dennis Allen will be fine. I think next year, I think the Saints are about a year away. Mm-hmm. And can they make the playoffs this year? I think they can. Will they make the playoffs? Totally different story. I'm not saying that they will, but can they? And there's only one route for them. They have to win the division, which seems like a little bit easier than it was before now.
Can is a pretty strong word because if we're talking that, I mean, technically the Cleveland Browns aren't eliminated from the playoffs either. But I don't think many people are going to go down to Vegas and put their life savings on it. It's like you said, I'm optimistic about players. That's how I'm going to start wording it the rest of the season. I'm optimistic about the players we have, just not for what we're doing this year. And there's several reasons for it. It's not just because of injuries. It's not just because we've lost our first 3 games. And it's not just because historically the odds show that we will not reach the Super Bowl because nobody's done it from 0-3, if I remember right. So what's the point of going to the playoffs if you're not going to the Super Bowl? At that point, you're just wasting away going from, which we've done this several times in the 10 years Sean Payton's been around, going from a top 5, top 10 defensive draft pick to going up into like 18 or